NFL Combine workouts are starting today, and they will last for the next few days through the weekend. Georgia's sending 14 players to the Combine, the most out of any school this year. Oklahoma and Alabama trail them with 11. So clear front runners in that regard. And, of course, you're going to get a lot of that when you're coming off of a national championship. Guys are going to leave. A lot of talented players going to the draft. We knew this was going to happen. That's not a new story for us. But who's going to do well in the Combine? Who needs to do well in the Combine with the draft coming up next month in late April? I'm here to tell you that. And before I get into that, make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION. Click the link below. Our 80-page commemorative book of the 2021 Georgia National Championship run. It's a really special book, guys. I know we've been saying it a lot, but I mean, some of the images in here, you're not going to get them anywhere else. Some of the stories, so you're going to want to check that out. Make sure you click the link below. Check that out. Ryan Cully from Dog Post here, talking about the NFL Combine. Who's going to do well for Georgia? You got a few guys on the defensive end, you got a few guys on the offensive end, and you got Jay Camarda right down in the middle there at punter and on special teams. So if you look down this list, I mean, you got the big names, right? You got Jordan Davis out there, you got James Cook out there, you got guys like George Pickens. So there's some guys that I just automatically expect to show out. One of them being Trayvon Walker. I mean, because if you talk about just athletic freaks in college football and athletic freaks on this Georgia Bulldog team, the first one that comes to mind, and whether that surprises you or not, because obviously Jordan Davis is there. You know, his 6'7", 6'6", 340-pound self, right? That's one of the first people that comes to mind, but for me, it's Trayvon Walker. I mean, the dude was a high school basketball star, high school football star, one of the most athletic players for Georgia the last couple of years. There's really nothing that he can't do as a pass rusher and a run stopper. I mean, one of the craziest plays we saw him make this year was that tip to the interception against Florida this year when he took the ball up and Nolan Smith went up and grabbed it. It's plays like that you watch with him as a Georgia Bulldog that you say, oh man, that's someone who really could be a problem in the NFL, someone who's going to be difficult, and he's a guy that's just rising up boards. I think he made Mel Kiper's top 25 prospects now. I mean, he wasn't a guy that was viewed as a first rounder for the last few months, and all of a sudden, I think teams in the NFL are starting to notice, oh man, Trayvon Walker is a star. I think he's a first round talent. It's just a matter of if he's going to go in the first round. It's a loaded defensive class, especially at the top when you have guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Kyle Hamilton and Kayvon Thibodeau, right? You've got all those really big name stars there at the top of the draft. But that first round is going to have a couple Georgia Bulldogs, and one of them is going to be Nakobe Dean, and I also expect Jordan Davis to go in the first round. But those are two players I don't think necessarily need to have a special combine performance to be drafted. Their performance as a Georgia Bulldog at the college football level already did that for them. I mean, Nakobe Dean was the best linebacker in football. There's a reason why he was the Butkus Award winner, right? And of course Jordan Davis, you know, other than Bryce Young, I mean, him and Bryce Young were the two most popular players in college football this year. I mean, they were screaming Jordan Davis for Heisman, right? Whether that was a little silly to do or not, it happened, and he was popular, and he's a Georgia legend, right? His size and his prowess on the line is what's going to get him drafted. I expect him to have a good combine performance, but I don't think he necessarily needs it. Now, there's a couple guys who I think could really, really use a great performance if they want to rise up boards, if they want to maybe jump a couple rounds come April. The first one that pops into my mind is Quay Walker, a guy that, you know, kind of waited his turn at Georgia, worked his way up the depth chart, and then he became Nakobe Dean's partner in the linebacker core this year. And I think, you know, it's not a knock on Quay Walker's talent, but he just got a little bit outshined by Nakobe Dean and Channing Tindall this year. I mean, Channing Tindall led the team in sacks, and Nakobe Dean was obviously, like I said just a minute ago, the best linebacker in college football. So a guy like Quay Walker gets a little overshadowed there. I think a combine performance where he shows, hey, I'm here too. Hey, I'm just as good as them. You know, I can run just as fast as them. I can rep as many reps as them on the bench. Look at my long jump. Stuff like that. If Quay Walker has a crazy combine, you're going to see him go from a late or middle round pick. All of a sudden, he's a second, third round pick. I mean, and honestly, all of these guys are really capable of doing that. But if there's someone not named Quay Walker that truly needs a good performance, in my opinion, in Indianapolis over the next few days, I think it's Zamir White, right? You know the story with Zamir White. He's one of the best high school running backs ever. You know, Dean Legge will tell you that, one of the best high school football players in general that he's just seen. He was a special talent in North Carolina. The ACL tear his senior year, a second ACL tear his freshman year. All of a sudden, he kind of loses his step. He's not the same athlete. Obviously, a really productive player at Georgia, a very important piece. A guy that if you need 5 or 6 yards, you can go to him, boom, boom, 5, 6 yards. He wasn't the explosive player that everyone thought he might be, though, and that was kind of the unfortunate thing with Zamir White. He's got a few months to work out here now, right? After winning it all in January, he's got a few months to work out. Maybe this is a perfect time for him to ready his body, ready his knees up. If he can show some speed at the 40, if he can show some shiftiness, I mean, running back has become kind of a dispensable position in the NFL, whether you like it or not. They're disposable, right? You know you can get a new running back every year almost and be a successful team. There's not that many star running backs in the NFL, so I'm not predicting that Zamir White's going to be some feature back in the league, but he can be a rotational guy for you. I don't think people view James Cook as a really good NFL prospect because he can do it all. He can catch, he can run. Obviously, it looks like he's gliding through the air when he's running full speed. It doesn't look like he's even trying. It's effortless running when you watch James Cook. With Zamir White, he's got a little bit more work to do as far as the combine goes because your star status in high school first of all, that goes out the window the moment you step onto a campus. It's not even thought about when you're entering the NFL. It's not even part of the discussion. Zamir, a guy that, a really good combine performance can help him out a lot. So, if you look at the rest of this list, I mean, their game speaks for themselves. Justin Schaefer, I'm sure that, he's not. There's definitely a lot more talented offensive linemen than Justin Schaefer. So, but I don't really see him as someone that's going to flash at the combine. Whether he great guard and everything, but I don't see him as a flasher at the combine. And then George Pickens, obviously. That is one of the prospects in this draft that no one can really pinpoint where he's going to go. So I think if he really balls out, obviously that's something that could sneak him into the first round. That's not crazy to think. I was watching videos of all of the wide receiver prospects the other night. They're all really good. It's another loaded wide receiver class, and it's really pick your poison. What do you want? Do you want the game-breaking speed that Jamison Williams has? Do you want the versatility that Garrett Wilson has? Do you want the possession catching that Drake London has? I think that George Pickens kind of does a little bit of all of that, and people are going to forget a little bit about that. I don't think the injury is as much of a concern as we thought. I mean, we saw him come back and do George Pickens things at the end of the year. You saw him make that grab against Alabama in the national championship. He's still going out and getting those balls, even though he wasn't necessarily 100% healthy. Well, he's only going to be healthier, and he's just a player that's going to get better and better. But I look at guys. I think Jordan Davis is going to have a really good combine. I think Nakobe Dean's going to have Nakobe Dean is so fast, and that speed shows on the tape. There's a difference between game speed and combine speed, so we'll see. I mean, we're going to see. So I think Nakobe Dean's not a player that needs a good combine because he's a first-round talent for sure. I think he's going to go somewhere in the middle to the 20s of the first round. Someone like Lewis Seen, I think, maybe fell down boards a little bit this season. Maybe people expected him to kind of take a bigger role in that secondary. So that's someone that I think could use a really good day. Regardless, you got 14 Georgia Bulldogs at the Combine. That's a special sentiment in itself, and I think all of them have the capability of making an impact on an NFL roster. Some people need it more than others, though. We'll see you guys at the site.